Hi everyone, my name is Sumedha, and today I'll be showing you how to create an instant, fully managed GraphQL API on top of your MongoDB data. So typically after we've created an Atlas cluster and added some data to our database, or maybe we've decided what kind of service and application we're building, the next step is to figure out how we want to access that data. And GraphQL API is one way to do this. So MongoDB data can actually be served over HTTP using the benefits of GraphQL's strongly typed query language. The GraphQL API is not only fully managed and generated for you, but can also be integrated with the full suite of Realm's other services, such as authentication and fine-grained permissioning over data. You can even use serverless functions to modify your API and let you define custom business logic, work with other services such as Atlas Search or Data Lake, and even integrate with third parties. So I'll start with how you can go from having a cluster to sending your first request and getting some data back. And then I'll move on to talk about how you can use the breadth of Realm services to create a full website such as this one, which is scraping any mentions of Realm on the internet and serving it on a website. So let's get started. Here I have a cluster and it's called Realm Cluster, and I've actually loaded some sample data into it. And if we go into my collections, you can see that I have my sample data set, and we'll mainly be working with the sample restaurants database and the restaurants collection. And so you can see I have some documents here, and now I'll actually go into Realm and create my GraphQL API. So what I'll do is I'll name my Realm application Instant GraphQL, and my cluster is already linked, as you can see below, and I'm taken to the Realm dashboard. So typically when we're creating a GraphQL API, we need to remember three things that we need to set up. And those services are authentication, rules, and schema. So I'm going to start by setting up rules for my restaurants collection. And when I click Add Collection over here, you can see that my collections from my cluster have actually been populated. So I'm actually going to go into restaurants and create permissions for this collection. And for now, I'll put read all and write all permissions, given this is a demo and I'm just playing around with this. The next thing I'll actually do is create a schema for this collection. And while you can actually write full JSON schema to describe the documents in this collection, the cool thing about this tool is you can actually generate your schema from the documents that are already in the restaurants collection. So what I'll do here is I'll generate my schema, and this might take a few moments. But once this is complete, you can actually see my JSON schema has been populated. And so I'll save and deploy this change. Great. So now that we've actually gotten that done, we actually have a GraphQL API ready to use already. And as you can see, we have a graphical console and we have our schema generated for us. So if I go back to the graphical console, I can actually start querying the data that lives on my cluster right now. And as you can see, I just received one restaurant. So this is analogous to a find one on a MongoDB database. And yeah, so I have the Riviera Caterer restaurant returned right here. So the next thing I kind of want to show you is how you can leverage the full tooling that exists around GraphQL and integrate Realm with that. And remember when I talked about authentication, this is the last thing that we need to set up in order to be able to do that. And Realm really provides a wide set of authentication providers. You can do email password. We also allow you to do custom JWT authentication, which lets you use third-party authentication providers such as Auth0, Cognito, and so on. But since we'll be doing some queries just from Postman, I'll create an API key. And once I deploy that change, I will actually create one from this button right here. And I'll call this Realm API key or GraphQL API key. And I'll copy this, and we've actually set up all we needed to on the back end, because now what I can do is start sending requests from the Postman client. And to do this, we'll just enter our authorization. So we just figured out our API key. So I'll just choose that option here and replace it. And we have to use the API key, key name. And then what I'll do for my URL is I'll change it to a post, and my GraphQL URL is actually provided for me in the GraphQL tab. So I'll populate that as well. And the last thing that's left to do is select GraphQL as my query type. And for the sake of this first demo, I'll just copy what I had here in Graphical and maybe modify it a little bit. So maybe I just want to get the borough, the cuisine, and the name of the restaurant. And once I've copied this over, I'll go back into Postman and simply copy it here. And now I'm ready to send my request. And once I've done that, boom, my data is right here. And I got that same document back, which is pretty cool. So we figured out how to do basic data access to the GraphQL API. I do also want to talk about the different API queries that you can perform, both queries and mutations that you can perform with the GraphQL API that's been generated for you. So I've actually created a full collection of mutations and queries that have been generated from my GraphQL schema. And as you can see here, I actually have all of the queries that map to normal MongoDB CRUD generated for GraphQL. So here, maybe if I want to do an insert many restaurants, I'm able to do that and actually provide the variables that I need to in a really nice manner. And again, this is all using a backend that has already been set up for you. So this is easily available from any client. The next thing I kind of want to get into is custom resolvers. And these let you get very flexible with the GraphQL API that you're exposing. A simple one that I've used here to demo is called getZipCodeDistance. And what this is doing is it's allowing me to do a query to get the distance from where I'm currently located to any restaurant name in my database. And then I also have a function associated with this custom resolver. So here it's called getDistance. I'm going to go into that right now. And what getDistance is doing is it's taking my input type, it's going to take that restaurant name, and then it's going to figure out how far away I currently am and return in miles how far away that restaurant was. So once that change has actually been deployed and that custom resolver exists, my schema is actually automatically generated. And to show you what that means, I can actually go back to Postman and do a quick demo of that as well. So here I'm going back to where I was before. This was the query we just done. And instead of doing a generated query, I'm actually going to query with my custom resolver. And as you can see here, it's called getZipCodeDistance. And I've actually hard-coded Riviera Caterer, which is the same restaurant that was returned to us. And now when I actually send this request, we're going to get the distance in miles for how far away this is. And 12 miles is pretty accurate given that I live in Manhattan. And that is the zip code that's being used. So this gives you a pretty good idea of how you can extend your GraphQL API to really customize it for your use case. Here's the app that I'm actually using for my React app. And as you can see, I have set up rules for my posts collection. And given that this is a read-only app, I've set up only read rules. I have my schema set up, and I have my GraphQL API right here. And it gives me the date, the text, the source, and it maps directly to my app and the metadata it provides. And I also have authentication enabled. So I hope that this GraphQL API demo was useful to you. I hope that you give it a try. Thank you for listening in.